high five. There you go. Thanks. I love this game. All right. Wait. First, I'm gonna pick this. This is how it works. Okay, like this. All right, cool. So, hi everyone. As Jonathan said, my name is Omar, and I'm working with Checkout, the coolest product in Klarna, or like how we call it, the money maker. Okay, cool. So this is a button, and like you are wondering, Shadow DOM, a button. What's the relationship over here? So the whole story of Shadow DOM and Klarna started with the buy button product. Yeah, I can see some people over there from the buy button, and it's a new product that has been started under the purchase experience domain, and the purpose of this product is to replace the shitty quick shop buy buttons that the merchants has today. And why I'm talking about this, the moment when engineers start to build the MVP of this buy button, there was a guy named Chris, same over here. There you go. So he asked me about the use cases of iframes inside Checkout. So as everyone knows, in Checkout we are using iframes. And then I told him, okay, listen, man, I was working with Checkout, and I'm still working with Checkout for almost 1 year. And it's not always the best thing that you can go for when you have a problem. And then I said, okay, man, there's something called Shadow DOM. And he said, okay, what is that? I said, yeah, it's a new thing. So this is the real title of the talk, but I didn't have time to update it. So as you can see, encapsulated component, iframe versus Shadow DOM. So we're going to talk about Shadow DOM, but first let's talk about the old way of building encapsulated component. This is Checkout, and integrated in the XXL merchant. So when I say component, over here, for us, it's the Checkout, and the integrator here is the merchant. So when we want to build Checkout, there is some set of isolation that we need of Checkout to achieve in order to be integrated to be integrated securely by the merchant. So if I ask you today how we can build such a product from the front-end perspective, I think everyone gonna think about iframe. It's the straightforward solution. It was introduced by Internet Explorer on 1996, and it was introduced to solve two big problems. So the first one is at that moment we had really slow connection. So we needed to load, for big pages, we needed to load like some chunks of it. So we were dividing the page into small portions. It's the same thing that we are trying to do today, which is called progressive apps, but we don't use iframes. Then the other obvious issue that iframe solve is how to embed an external HTML document. But throughout the history of the iframes, we use them also to solve other issues, like CSS encapsulation. As everyone knows, or if you work in front-end, at some point you can see that some people, they were using iframe just to avoid CSS overlapping between, for example, I don't know, like two parts of the same app. But at least for me, whenever like I heard about name iframe, I feel really so like something is not correct, you know. If you work in the front end, you're gonna see at least, I don't know, it's me. I worked with iframe at least 1 year and 2 months. It wasn't always like the best thing. Whenever I heard about iframes, I feel kind of like it's not the right thing, you know. One of the things that iframe, if you use iframe, you're gonna notice it's iframe, they are slow. And everyone knows that when you use iframe in a page, it's completely different than just using a page without iframe. So why iframe, they are slow? That's the question. The answer to that is something called browsing context. And why is browsing context? The browsing context is the environment that the browser needs in order to show a page. So for example, creating a new window object a new document object, and so on, and also JavaScript context that the browser needs in order to show the page. The button is not working. Cool, now it works. So for example, a tab or iframe gonna create a new browsing context. So let's put it like this. When you open Google Chrome and you start a tab, the browser needs to create a new browsing context. And then when you start another tab, then the browser again needs to create a new browsing context. So that's why when you have iframe inside your page, you're gonna notice that sorry, the memory consumption is much bigger, and also the time to load is much bigger. This is a profiling of checkout. As you can see over here in the red rectangle, there is one call that the browser Chrome. This is, by the way, this is the tool called tracing. It's a tool that you can find in Google Chrome if you want to see what's happening in the browser. As you can see over here, we see two calls of the new context. So as I said, if you click on the V8 new context, the browser is going to show a warning over this call, which means that you need to use as least as possible of these calls. Again, I worked with iframes, so we're going to talk a little bit about my in-field experience with iframes. So the first thing that you need to deal with when you're going to use iframe as a solution for your encapsulated component is dynamic resizing of iframe. So you need to take care of that. There is no way today the browser doesn't take care of resizing the height of the iframe. You have two options. The first one is to show the scroll bar on the iframe, which is not. I don't think that any product manager would no no product manager would accept that. So don't do that. And the second one is to use the set timeout. And as we know in the front end or for the JavaScript, whenever you use the set timeout to solve a problem, then you know that it's not the great way to do it. Another one, iframe and Safari. Apparently, there's like a long love story between these two things. In Safari mobile, you're gonna find a lot of shit over there. So good luck with that. For example, this is like a bug that we had encountered recently when we integrated a new component inside checkout. The bug was what? Like you just click, for example, on the email address, and then you're gonna see the keyboard shown. It was happening in the mobile Safari. Then when you just scroll a little bit, the keyboard is still shown, but you cannot type in. And we spent 2 days just debugging how we can solve this issue. And the funny fact is it was just one line. We need to remove it. We need to remove all the on-touch event on the element or one of its parents. Okay, so enough just talking about iframes. Let's talk a little bit about the advantages of iframe. So one of the big advantages of iframe is this rule that the browser applies on iframe, which is same origin policy. So by origin here, it's not the domain. So if you take 2 pages, if 2 pages need to be in the same origin, then they need to be the same domain, same subdomain, and the same port, and also the same protocol. If, like for example, HTTP or HTTPS. So the browser, let's say like we have these 2 pages. The first one, the page B, it's the component, and the page A is the integrator. So the page B, as you can see, and the page A, they are served from 2 different origins, which means the page A cannot access or the DOM structure or whatever inside the page B, and also the same go for the page B. And the only way to communicate between these two pages is by using the protocol post-message API. So this provides a complete isolation for the page B from the page A, and also the same from the page E. So you are sure that nothing is going to affect the page B in this case. So this is a sum up of iframes. When you're gonna use iframe, you're gonna be sure that you're gonna be sure that you're gonna impact the time to load and also the user interactions, especially for these slow devices. And even that today we have really high-end devices. For example, in checkout we have 1% of traffic going through the Android 4, which is kind of a low device. A low device. And also you have the UX. The UX is not the best thing with iframes. You cannot compose to iframes to create a new component. And also communication. You need to use the post message API. And in checkout, for example, we build another layer on top of this, and on top of that we build another layer. So good luck with that. And then you're gonna have weird bugs in Safari, and that's something that you're gonna learn when you're gonna use iframes and Safari. But the good thing about iframes is that they are supported everywhere, and also it provides a complete isolation for your component. Okay, so so is there another alternative? Let's put it like this. This is the scale of isolation. At the beginning, you have a div. The div doesn't provide does provide no isolation at all, and then you have the iframe, which provide a complete separation from the integrator, and with a lot of issues and bad things. So this is the new thing. It's the title of the topic of the talk, which is Shadow DOM, and you can put it in the middle of the scale of isolation. It doesn't provide a complete isolation than iframe, but it does provide some set of isolation that you can use in some context. So what is Shadow DOM? Shadow DOM is a new API that has been introduced recently into the DOM API. It was started by Google, and it was introduced as a under the name of V0. I think the first draft was written in 2013, and as I say, like the name was V0, and then it was standardized by all the other vendors, Firefox and Microsoft, under the name of V1 or just Shadow DOM. So what does Shadow DOM allows exactly? It allows hidden tree to be attached to a regular DOM. We're going to understand this by an example. So as I say, it's a new API. You can do it just by, you can attach shadow to your element just by calling this function. And this function takes to one object options as a parameters, which takes an attribute of mode, either open or closed. And what's the difference? If you create your shadow with open, then you can access the DOM structure via shadow root. Sorry. The closed inside the DOM is completely isolated. So this, if you create a shadow DOM with a closed mode, you're gonna have your DOM structure is gonna be completely isolated from the integrator. So let's say this is a function that creates a shadow DOM and attach it to the page. As you can see, I just called the attach shadow on a regular div with the mode open. This is the rendering of this. This is the rendering of the function that we just seen. As you can see, there is a tag, the shadow root, sorry, from which our shadow DOM structure starts. And as you can see, there is open flag on it as we created the shadow DOM in open mode. So this is in the red rectangle. This is how the integrator gonna see the DOM structure. It's without seeing the structure of the shadow tree. And then the blue one, it's what the component gonna see. And as you can see, there is something called shadow boundary, and this shadow boundary gonna apply some rules on the events that's gonna pierce and go out from the shadow structure. And for the end user, sorry, this looks like just like a normal tree or a flattened rounded tree. One thing also that the shadow DOM has introduced. It's something called scoped CSS. So you don't need to use iframes anymore to have scoped CSS. So which means there's two rules that Shadow DOM will give you. First, the CSS selectors from the outer page doesn't apply to the elements inside the Shadow DOM. This is an example. So as you can see in this example, there is a class called test, which has like a background with a background green, and then I have a shadow DOM with mode open. Inside it, I have a div which has the class test. So as we said, when you have a shadow DOM, the outer page classes or CSS rules doesn't apply to your shadow elements. As we see here, the rendering result, the first div has a background which is green, which is correct, and then the other one wasn't affected by the style of the outer page. Then we have the second rule. So the style defined inside don't bleed out. They are scoped to the DOM, to the host element or the DOM, the shadow DOM tree. This is an example to understand this. So what I have done here, I just moved the style definition inside my shadow structure, and as you can see, inside the shadow structure, we have a div with class test, and it has now the background green, but this style definition didn't apply to the outside of the page, which means, again, we have a scoped CSS, and the CSS doesn't bleed out, and also the CSS inside the shadow structure doesn't bleed out, and also the CSS outside the page doesn't pierce the shadow boundaries. So one thing that you need to know about Shadow DOM is super fast. It's just like a div with some rules. So we don't create a new browsing context. We don't do all these kind of things. It's just a div that's going to be rendered, but for this div, it has some new restriction. For example, for the integrator cannot access it if it's in closed mode, and also the CSS is scoped to the shadow structure. So this is a comparison between Shadow DOM and iframe. So when it comes to speed, we cannot compare it. Shadow DOM is super fast as it behaves like a div. And UX friendly, good luck with iframe. You're going to have a lot of problem with that. And for Shadow DOM, it behaves exactly like a div. You don't need to take care of resizing or whatever. For the communication, in iframes, you need to use post message, which can be messy sometime. And sorry, for the Shadow DOM, you just use the dispatch event, which is kind of the same as just triggering a click event. And then for the browser support, I didn't want to talk about this at the beginning, otherwise I would drop everyone. So for iframe, it's supported everywhere, and for the Shadow DOM, it's not supported in Internet Explorer, and it's not going to be supported over there. The Edge, it's under the priority, it's in top priority of things that you want to build. And Firefox, it's you can enable it by starting Firefox by a flag, but it's going to be shipped in the next major version. Sorry. So now everyone is asking the question: can Shadow DOM replace the iframe? The answer currently is no, because the Shadow DOM doesn't provide the same level of isolation, but it does provide another level of isolation, which is more than a div, but it's less than iframe. For the only thing, or the only reason that Shadow DOM cannot replace today the iframe is that the browsing context, when you create a Shadow DOM, the browsing context is going to be shared with the integrator or with the consumer of your component, which means, for example, the integrator can patch Element.prototype. This is a demo. So in this demo, I used the buy button app, and I rendered it using the Shadow DOM. versus the iframe. As you can see here, I throttled the CPU by 4, so you can see the result. Shadow DOM already rendered. iframe, you can go and take a coffee. It's not going to be rendered right now. There you go, and then it's rendered. So as you can see, when it comes to speed, Shadow DOM is faster than iframe. However, Shadow DOM doesn't provide the same isolation as iframe. So the thing that you can, if there is something that you can take off from this, take away from this talk, is before going to use iframe, first think about Shadow DOM as a solution, and then if it doesn't fit your requirement of isolation, then you can fall back to the iframe. But I believe in one thing, the Shadow DOM is going to be improved in order to provide also, also to provide JavaScript isolation at some point. I think I'm ahead of my time. How much time do I have left? Okay, cool. So, yeah, I'm done.
Thanks a lot, Omar. Yes, we have something for you here.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot for your presentation. You can open it right now. So I will be throwing this at people that have questions for Omar.
Yes, so if you have questions, go ahead.
Hopefully someone in the first rows, because I cannot throw it that far. Are there any questions for Omar? Yes.
You like?
Of course, man. No,
yeah.
no, I'm not going to take a question.
Yeah. No, I'll catch you later for more questions. But mainly, like, what's? It wasn't very specific. Like, what are the things that you cannot do with Shadow DOM? Like, but just like to try to have a specific question. I understood that things from the Shadow DOM doesn't leak to the document, so that's cool. But if someone patches JavaScript outside, you're effed. Right? Can they actually access from the outer document stuff inside, like if you have an image or like run JavaScript in your Shadow DOM? Or
so this is the thing. If you have access to the same browsing context, you're gonna touch the, for example, the element attached shadow, and then force always the open mode. The thing is, as I said, like you need some. To think about the requirement of the isolation that you're going to have to the integrator.
Yeah, but just to give a specific question, a merchant could, through JavaScript, like reshape the button, for instance, in the end.
Sorry?
He could, like, through JavaScript, reshape the button, so it would.
Okay, no. If, as I said, like, if you can check, you can do some checks. I built like a mini framework in which in which I check if the Shadow DOM is accessible outside, then I just fall back to the iframe.
Cool.
Hi. I was wondering if you can arbitrarily nest also
Sorry, I
Shadow DOM.
I don't hear you. Can you speak up?
Yeah. If the Shadow DOM, is nestable. If you can like arbitrarily nest Shadow DOMs in Shadow DOMs and Shadow DOMs.
Yes, you can do. It's like the same as it's a tree, so you can put it inside or outside. You can have inside children of inside your Shadow DOM, which is gonna be also a Shadow DOM and so on.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. I have a question here.
Did you try to make a full proof of concept of having iframe features like loading from an external JavaScript or something like that with Shadow DOM, or like is it fully working your quick shop button, or was it like just for rendering?
So this is the thing I say, like this is a mini framework in which like we pass the rendering function of the app. For example, it may be like a React app or whatever, and then you have also a fallback in which we're gonna use if the Shadow DOM, it's not if the attached shadow was patched by the integrator. So this is an example, but it's not in production waiver. But I say like this is just a small framework in which we are doing one thing. We are trying to render the buy button in using Shadow DOM, Then we check if the shadow DOM is accessible outside. Then we just fall back to the iframe.
Okay.
And the iframe app is the same as what we're gonna render inside using the shadow DOM.
Until there is JavaScript isolation, it seems to be a great way to integrate components from inside Klarna.
Yeah, that's for example like a use case. When you have like a secure browsing context, then you're gonna have like the CSS isolation and also the DOM isolation.
Okay.
Cool. I think we still have time for one more question.
Thanks, Omar. One question. So what happens if to render the button? We might need React or UI.
You can use
so where does this go though? We wouldn't want to have. Where will this get loaded? I mean. So we wouldn't want to have the integrator have to load these. I'm wondering where this dependency fit in the shadow DOM. Can we add scripts there as well and everything?
I have a different question. Well, can you frame it?
Yes. So in order to show this button, we will need to include some library. Let's say.
Yeah.
So we will have the shadow DOM include scripts as well.
Yeah.
In order to show
it's just
this.
a JavaScript that you
Does this have any impact on like the loading? Are there any comparisons based on this view?
So the JavaScript is going to be evaluated in the same context. As I said, iframe is going to always create a new browsing context, which is always expensive than just like injecting JavaScript instead of the merchant page. So it's going to have some cost, of course, but it's really slow if you compare it to the iframe. As you can see here, like we managed to render like 3 buttons, and like we couldn't even like render like 1 iframe before that. And also one thing which is also cool with the shadow DOM here, the JavaScript needs to be evaluated just once. But for the iframe, every time you're going to load an iframe, you need to evaluate the whole JavaScript inside the iframe.
All right. I lost all my microphones, so we don't have any more time for questions. Let's just give one more round of applause.
Thanks, guys. I love this game! All right, going on?
Ja, wir gehen jetzt essen.
Sorry. We're gonna just do it again, me and Rasmus. I love this game! Okay, everyone, we're gonna just try this before going to lunch, all right? Everyone gonna scream, I love this game, and then I'm gonna give you the context about it, okay? On 3, all right? 1, 2, 3. I love this game!
I love this game.
All right.